Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pleasure to rise on Bill 24, an act to amend the Electricity Act at second reading. Mr. Speaker, this is the longest state of emergency in the history of this province and in this country, Mr. Speaker. And while the intent is a good one of trying to relieve financial pressure on people struggling during the state of emergency as a result of the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, changing a statute of this Legislative Assembly to provide temporary relief for 1 year is wholly inappropriate. This could be done in a heartbeat, Mr. Speaker, within the week through an amendment or change to the emergency order. Easy. Easy. If they're serious about this on the other side, they could have the emergency order changed to ensure that this second rate increase doesn't occur. I see the objective. There's a very quick mechanism to do it, which is appropriate because it's a temporary measure, at least as the rationale was given, a temporary measure, and it could be built into the emergency order, just as Nova Scotia did, to put a 2% temporarily, a 2% cap for the rest of the pandemic on rent increases in that province through their emergency order, Mr. Speaker. So to actually interfere with the work of the energy regulator in the way this bill would is a problem. The bill would amend the Act so that NB Power would not be required to file its annual strategic, financial, and capital investment plan to the EUB. Why not? Why isn't that information to be filed? That's transparency. That's the role of the economic regulator, to ensure that we know what NB Power's plans are in terms of capital investment, in terms of its strategies, and yet this bill is suggesting they'll be given a year's holiday from that requirement. That is a requirement for the economic regulator to benefit from on behalf of everybody, so that the light of the day shines on NB Power's plans every year, so we know what they're planning. So I see no reason, Mr. Speaker, for the Section 101 amendment here, which would say NB Power would not be required to file a plan in 2020. So you sort of wonder why, Mr. Speaker. And as for the rates in Section 103 here, as I said, this is a 1-year pause on rates. Good rationale, and there's in the context of the state of emergency and the pandemic, when lots of people are suffering, Mr. Speaker. So let's do it. Let's see the government do it through an emergency, the emergency order, so it can be done immediately, and it wouldn't end up amending a statute of this Legislative Assembly that is for a short-term purpose to address a short-term need during a state of emergency, Mr. Speaker. So I don't see the merit in taking that step legislatively by way of amendment to the Electricity Act for a simple pause in 1 year to help people out. That should be done through the emergency order. And as I said, all it takes for that to happen is the signature of the Minister of Public Safety. Just like that. Easy. So it makes me wonder why this bill is being brought before the Legislative Assembly rather than the Minister of Public Safety simply amending the emergency order to give people, ensure people don't have a second rate increase perhaps next year. And meanwhile, NB Power would still be required to file its annual plan, so we can see what their plan is for spending, capital spending, so we can see what their financial strategy is. I mean, they've got a large debt thanks to the nuclear power plant in the fleet, and so, you know, this is the antithesis of transparency, Mr. Speaker, to relieve them from their obligation to file their plan for capital investment and their financial plans, fiscal plans, for the coming years. So, Mr. Speaker, I have great difficulty in supporting this means of achieving the ends that the minister says it's supposed to achieve. Thank you.